Ohio lawmakers have given the green light, and Governor Mike DeWine his signature to a bill that allows police departments in the state to charge up to $75 an hour for body camera video requests, the time that it takes to process that video. So, what does this bill all mean? And is it a barrier to transparency in law enforcement? I spoke to one of the bill's supporters, State Representative Joshua Williams, to get some clarity. What warranted this?
Yeah, so what happened, there was a lot of individuals that do this on social media, they call it almost like auditing the police, where they were putting in mass requests of body cam footage that was causing delays. So for example, in Toledo, a typical request, a valid request when I have a victim of a crime or defendant, and we put in a request with Toledo Police Department, it's taking about 4 to 5 months to get a accurate response when it relates to video because they're inundated with individuals that are coming down, coming in, like doing these type of like, some of them call it First Amendment audits. Some of it just call it auditing the police where they ask for body cam footage of all day of a particular officer. And it's caused a large volume of requests, delaying the ability of police departments to respond to public information requests by valid citizens who are either victims or suspects in a potential crime or incident. So that's part of it, and it's causing a financial burden on a lot of the police departments to be able to process the large volume of requests.
And one argument I've often heard in favor of this has been that it's laborious work. It takes a lot of time, and then in some departments they're smaller. But does this create a barrier to access for the public and create a barrier to transparency?
Yeah, I mean, it can create a barrier to access, right? There are people that are indigent that can't afford to apply for this. So we're going to be looking at it in the budget, whether or not we need to revise this statute, maybe create a carve out for individuals that are indigent or someone that's actually a victim on an incident. But it's not just as simple as going and getting the officer's body cam footage and putting it on a DVD. It's more time intensive than that. You know, we have requirements about release of victims' information. We have requirements about privacy concerns. So they have to actually listen to and watch the videos and redact portions of it if necessary to be able to, not disclose the victim's address when they're talking to an officer and reporting a crime. They have to redact that portion of the video. So it's not a simple download a video, throw it on a DVD and call a person, say it's ready. They have to literally spend hours watching videos and making sure that they're not violating victims' rights when it comes to releasing these type of videos with the content that's involved.
And you had just mentioned that this fee now adds that barrier to people that cannot afford that. And so this is the public bearing the cost of police transparency. Is there a reason why this could not have been worked out with funds that the state already collected through tax revenues to fund the needs of these departments?
Well, part of the problem is the large number of requests that are coming in. It's a small group of individuals that are doing it across the state, but they're intentionally causing delays. I've encountered an individual in Toledo that has done that. Like he's down there requesting 45 officers, different body cam footage because he heard about an incident and he just wants the video. He's not connected to the incident whatsoever. He's not the victim, the suspect, attorney for either party. And he's down there asking for thousands of hours of video, and it's going to cause a delay. So there's two ways we can handle this. Either we can continue to let this occur, and what you're going to have is you're going to have real life incidents where victims of crimes or defendants that are accused of crimes don't have access to the videos necessary, maybe to prove their innocence or prove that the crime actually occurred because of the delays that this is causing. So one way to do this is to keep the fee in place and provide a carve out for either victims, defendants, or individuals that are indigent. And that's something that we have been exploring internally, and we'll have those discussions during the budget process this year. And we'll look on the new created Committee for Criminal Justice, whether or not we will address those concerns, because I believe we do need to provide access for the public. But at the same time, we also have to provide some way of curbing this bad behavior by people who have bad intentions, which is just going out there and requesting a voluminous amount of information for no reason.
Well, that's one of the things that came up as a concern with this was the fact that people in a court case where that body camera video could make or break their case, whether it's proving what happened during a traffic stop or whether it's confirming an incident. And so in terms of people that need that body camera video in a court case, does this ensure that they're going to have access to that video if that could maybe prove them innocent in a case?
Yeah, so if an individual is part of a case, whether it's a traffic violation or a criminal offense in the state of Ohio, once that case is filed against them, they automatically have subpoena powers. So one, they have discovery rights under Criminal Rule 16. They're in the newly created statute, they're going to be able to request it through the prosecutor's office that have alleged that they committed either a criminal offense or a traffic violation. They can ask the state of Ohio to say, hey, give me a copy of the body cam or the dash cam or surveillance video. Or if the state says, oh, we don't know if that's available or it's causing too much of a delay, we have the authority to go to the court and file a subpoena directly to the police and say, give me a copy of it. So I don't think it will affect people that have actually been accused of crimes. The people that it can affect are people that are victims of crimes or individuals like you that are reporters that are looking into an incident, right? You want to be able to report on it. You want to get body cam footage from an incident when there's an accusation of excessive use of force. You want to get a copy of it, and you, Jaden, can't get a video for 4 or 5 months because there's some guy that's been going down there requesting every body cam footage for 10 officers that he's encountered in his life, and he wants to watch every hour of that officer on the job. And now there's a delay, and you can't do your job being able to get good, timely reporting to the public about the incident because this person's causing delays in the system. So that was the concern. That it's time intensive, it's costly to the departments, and we have some bad actors out there. So what we need to do is we also need to look at whether or not there's going to be ancillary cost burdens to individuals like victims of crimes and individuals that are indigent who have legitimate claims to wanting to see the videos. And we can address that. That's something that we definitely will look into.
And I had reached out to the city of Toledo regarding this yesterday, and they said they're still coming up with their policy about how they're going to handle this new law. Do you see this being something that cities themselves are going to just have the autonomy when it comes to whether or not they're going to charge for video?
Yeah, I think it just gives them the authority to charge if they want to. It's no different than the clerk of courts, right? We give them the authority to charge up to a certain amount to seal your record. Some courts charge the maximum amount. Some courts like Toledo charges $50. So it's kind of that local governance, that type of home rule authority to decide for yourself whether or not you're going to do this to the public or not. Hey, and this is what we want. We want local governance, right? We want the local residents to be able to go to the police department and say, we don't want you putting this fee in. Or maybe the local residents go and say, hey, we're tired of all these delays because of this large volume. So make that person that's coming down asking for 100 videos a week, tell him he's got to pay $75 and see if he keeps requesting 100 videos a week. And you're going to start seeing those requests go down.
Now, obviously, this measure came a part of this bill toward the end of the year, towards the end of the General Assembly. There was not an opportunity for the public to chime in on that, and that is something that's being criticized. Is there a reason why this wasn't something that could have been handled earlier in the year and maybe given the public an opportunity to chime in?
Well, things pop up all the time. So maybe this is a concern that was brought towards the end of the General Assembly and it was time to address it. This is one of those bills we kind of call a Christmas tree bill. What the public should, find solace is that you elected your representatives and your senators to be down here and represent you in your district. We all were very much aware that this was becoming part of the legislation. We all had internal discussions about whether or not it could be part of that bill. And we agreed that that was something that needed to be handled. And if there was any concerns, we could address it in the short term, since it takes a certain amount of time for the bill to be enacted. Once it's signed by the governor, by the time it's enacted, we're back in session. And we're able to, and we see this all the time, where there will be another bill that's not related to this, and maybe there's some concerns that gets raised. We have interested party meetings down here, and we tag an edit, a fix onto another bill to get it through in February or March or April, and we're able to fix it very quickly with input from the public about whether or not there is actual tweaks that need to be made. We fix statutes all the time down here in the General Assembly.
So there is a chance that we could see some revisions happen to this then.
There's always chances, Jane. There's always a chance. But I think there's certain revisions need to be made. I think we need to have a pathway for people that are actually indigent, that are actually part of an incident, right? That you have some direct claim to the incident. But we also need to realize that there's some bad actors out there that are intentionally causing delays by asking for a large volume of information from police departments. And Toledo Police, I mean, I've dealt with them a lot. I've done public information requests. I've done a ton of them. You can go down and do a public information request of my public information request, and you'll see the number that I've requested before, especially when we had the red light camera and speed camera program in place. I did a lot of public information requests back then. But the delays that I'm seeing now is like unprecedented. Like I've personally done public information requests for one of my clients that we got them not guilty on a murder last year, and he had another incident. So did a public information request. It took 6 months to get the dash cam and body cam video on that incident. It took 6 months, and I'm an attorney, and it took 6 months, right? And he was looking at whether or not the police were in the wrong and whether or not he would sue or blah blah blah. But it took 6 months for us to get the information. Let's say he came to you and said, Jade, there was this incident. I was done wrong, but I wasn't criminally charged. So now the only way to get the information is a public information request, and you have no ability to report on it in real time because it's going to take you 6 months to get the video. And it needs to be fixed. And this was the first step to fix that system, and we'll look to see if we need to tweak it.
And obviously, this is quite frustrating. I can imagine as an attorney, how many of your colleagues have legal experience in terms of with this bill? Did they raise any questions with regard to how this could be challenging on their end?
Yeah, I'm the only criminal defense attorney down here. There's some former prosecutors and there's a bunch of attorneys. And kind of the champion of this bill, the floor leader, Representative Bill Seitz, who is now term limited out, he was the one that brought this bill forward and negotiated the conference committee, and he's an attorney. So we did have discussions about this, and he's, in his wise words, he's always said, Josh, we can come back and fix it if we need to, but this needs to get put in place now because we have to stop these individuals from requesting this large volume from departments, because like Toledo Police has one officer that reviews and does videos. That's crazy when someone comes down and asks for 100 hours of video, and there's one officer that has to watch this, redact information, make sure bad information for victims aren't getting out there to the public, and it's going to cause delays for legitimate purposes.
Thanks to State Representative Williams for his time, and for additional reporting, give me a follow on social media.